Okay, welcome to day 4. And please, if you can hear my voice, as always, let me know in the chat and so that I can start. Okay, then I guess we are good to go. I was trying to go through the concerns that you shared during the registration. And one of it is saying that I should try and then zoom in more to the screen, but I believe I have been zooming in enough. The test, that is the maximum that Python, I think, can do for us. I'll check if I can increase the font size any further. But if that is not the case, then we will have to manage this one like that. Looks like there's no other comments apart from that one, so we should be good to go. Okay, so today we will look at, let's quickly check the outline. You saw in the registration that we are looking at arrays. So anything that is like an ordered set of something. So that means that it has more than one item. And under the array, we'll be looking at what we call lists and tuples. And then we'll also be looking at sets. So this is what we are looking at today. And so let us get right into code. I have my PyCharm opened. So let me bring that one up. Sorry about that. So the first one that we are looking at is Python list. So let me just bring up my doc strings. Okay, so what is a list in Python? A list is an ordered collection of elements. And so what we mean by ordered is that not like we actually have numbers around it or something like that, but it's an ordered collection of elements. So since we started, we have been declaring variables like maybe name, and we can just give it and then if I want to give another person's name, maybe I can say name 2 or name 1, whatever the case is. And then I can give another name like that. If I want to give another name, I can go ahead and then type in whatever thing I want to type. So if you imagine this to be like your contacts, your phone's contacts list, then if you have like 700 or 1000 contacts, it will be very tedious to declare variables for each and every one of them. And that is where lists come in to make our jobs easier for us. So if we are to use lists to our advantage like this, instead of typing names for each one of them, we can just say names. And then we let it equal to I will not be using this autocomplete. In fact, let me delete this part so that it doesn't suggest based on those ones. Okay, so in here, I can put more than one item so that I can put domain. Separated by commas, I can put the other names also. So if there are 1,000 of them, I can just put all of them in here. Python will still look at it as a valid code. There will not be error in my code. So it looks like I'm a little short of names. So let me change this one to something more familiar. So in case I'm going to buy some items at the store, it's still trying to give the suggestions. So I'll not take it. Let me see, I will just first get a milk. And then after the milk, I'll get bread. I can also get some eggs. And then maybe ice. It can be anything. I can get some chocolate. I can also get some. Okay, I already have milk. So you understand the scenario I'm trying to create here. Let me close this project tab for more space. We understand the scenario. So this is what we call a list, defined by square brackets, starting and ending. Please give me a minute. I forgot to bring up my screen capture tool. Sorry, my screen annotation tool. So we are currently looking at lists. Once they are defined in square brackets like this, then we say we are working with lists. Okay, so we found out that whenever we declare a variable, we could print the variable's value to the terminal or even use it elsewhere in our code. Yesterday, we found out that we can even perform mathematical operations with our variables and all. And if we have something like this, how do we now use the elements that are inside? That is the next step that we will look at right now. And before we go to that step of, let me say, assessing values or members, we call them members. All these things that you see in here, they are called members or elements, any way you want to look at them. How do we now get all of them or one of them or some of them and work with? Now we have to understand a very important principle in programming. So the computers, let me say, they start to count from zero. We as human beings, or in regular language, we might say that this is at 1, and this is 2, this is 3, and the list continues. But that is not what the computer sees. The computer sees it starting from 0. So inside the computer's memory, this first element has what we call an index of 0. Let me put that one in text rather. It has an index of 0. So that's how it's the computer calls it. It calls it an index. It uses that to define the position of the elements in the list. So this one's index is 0. Bread's index is 1. Egg has an index of 2, 3, 4, and then the list continues. So if you have a list of 5 items, the index of the last element or the last item is 4 and not 5 because you are starting to count from 0. That is at least what the indexing does. And so if I go ahead now and check for the length of this one, which I can easily do, in our print statement, we can just, yesterday we saw the int function that converts things to integers. There is also the len, which is you can see the short form for length, and you can see that it's asking me to pass an object inside. If I zoom in, I zoom into the len function to view the documentation. you can see that it says here, return the number of items in a container. So in case we look at a list like a container, I can just pass in this list to the items. And then when I run my code, I should see 5. The items are 5, but the index of the last element is 4. And let me show you how that one also works. So if I want to now access the first element of this list, I can now, let me just give it another variable so that it becomes easier to read. First element now, I would say items, and then I'll now bring square brackets again, just like I used for the list. And then inside here, I pass the index of the item I want. Not the actual position like first, second, third, or what. I pass the index. So if I pass in index of 0 here and print first element to the screen, what is it saying? Okay, I interchange position. You see that it says milk because milk is at index 0. If I print the first, it says bread. Now let me try, this is 5. So let me try and print 5. It will throw an error here saying that index error, that the list index is out of range. So the index is, of course, I've mentioned it to you. And now it's saying that the particular error we have is that this list that we are trying to use, oh, sorry. The list that we are trying to use, which is the items list here, the index we are trying to access on the list is out of range. That means it is more than what is actually in there. So if the range is 5 or 4 in this case, if you put 5, 5 is out of range because the maximum it can go is 4 when you want to index. So if I put 4 here now and I run day4, the day4 is the name of the file, sorry. I get chocolate, which is the last element. But there are some shorthand tricks. Sometimes you call a list of items. Let's say you are reading data from a file, like a CSV file, and a particular column has, you don't know the number of elements in the column. You cannot say you are going to check the file, then come and put the index here, especially when the file changes. So there are some applications, as you use them, they write data to files and all that. So the more you use, the more it writes the data. So it will be difficult to keep track of it. Well, the Python creators thought of that. And so if you want to access the last element of a list, you can just put a -1. I put -1 like this and run it again, I should expect chocolate again. And so that is how we access individual elements from a list. Where I'm getting to might be a little confusing, but I know you will still get it. If I want to access more than one, let's say from milk to X, so the first 3 elements, I put the starting index here. So I can put 0 here. And then I bring a colon. Where do I want to get to? I want to get to, say, index 2, sorry. Now, let's see what this one will give us. You see that it gave me milk and bread. This is where I know it becomes a little confusing because if it is saying that the index 2 is actually egg because it's counting 0, 1, 2, then why didn't it add the egg as part of the list that it is returning? Because I gave it 2 indices here. Now, the first one is the milk, 0 index, which it got right by bringing milk here. Why did it bring the X when the egg is rather at index 2 and it's ended at bread? Well, that is how the creators designed it. So we don't have so much control on it like that. If you want to get X, you have to, the index, the first one that comes before the colon has to start on the exact index you want to start from. And then this 2 has to be +1. So the second one has to be +1. So if I want to end at X, so you can think of this one not as the index, but as what we might look at as the regular position of the element, like the visual position, like 1, 2, 3. So in this case, when I run it again, I get what I was anticipating at first. So we can manipulate this one to see if I start at 2 and end at, we only have, let me add biscuits to the list. I think our list is just too small. So let's start at 2 and end at 5. And then let's see. It starts from 0, 1, 2. Like I told you, when you want to subset like the list, the first item you put here, the first index you put here before the colon is the actual index you want to start from. So in this case, I wanted to start from index 2, which is X. But where you want to end, you add 1 to the value. So you take that not as the index, but the visual position of the element. So in this case, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is chocolate. So when I put chocolate 5 here, I know that I'm ending at chocolate. But where I want to start, I can count to 0, 1, 2, and then I start from there. Okay, as always, I'll be monitoring the comment section for your questions. If you have any, you drop them and then I can answer them. Okay, I just hope it's not getting confusing because what you have done so far, we can look at it as basics, and now things are getting a little complex. Okay, so a list, you know that I've only entered strings. It can actually contain multiple data types. So I can add, instead of this milk, I can add like a number like 420 here. It will not throw an error. I can still work. So if I change this index from 0 here, that means 0 to 5. When I run it, it will still work. We can, that is the good thing about it, and store all the data types. So it can be a mixed data type array, and then nothing will happen when we run our code. I can change this X to true, and then maybe one of these to a float. So maybe for 34.06. And everything will still work. So if we have a mixed data type we want to store, we can store it this way too in the Python list, and then it will work. Okay. I will not be able to tackle all the list elements, but I'll make sure that the assignment will make you do research because there are a lot and I cannot cover all of them. What I can do is to introduce you to some of them. So if we want to combine lists, maybe items, and then let's get another list called maybe numbers. Here I can put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I want to add these two lists, let me minimize this, please. If I want to add these two lists, all I do is to just say, let me do that in the print statement directly. Items plus numbers. I can just add the two lists like this. And then it will take the first and combine the elements of the second also to it. As simple as that. And I know maybe you are thinking about subtraction, whether that one too would work. And you know from here that it's not working. Python has given me that list does not support the minus or the subtraction operator. So we can't do that. We can only add elements like that. I think we can also multiply it. So let me just see if I can multiply the items maybe times 2 or something like that. And what that one will do is just to see it's just got it from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we can multiply it like this, but we can't. Division 2 will not be possible because that 1, 2 is not supported. So we can multiply the list. That will only multiply the elements. We can also add one or more lists, 2 or more lists together, but we can't subtract them just like that. Okay, so this one was items. Okay, so now I will introduce you to some what I'll call, say, list methods. We've already found one of them, which was the learn. So when I say methods, I know I've not mentioned it before. When you get to classes, you will understand it better, but it's just a function. So let me just say list functions for now, not to sound too technical. So which is just to say that if you have a list, which functions can we give the list to? And what can those functions do with the list? Now, this, you can see that it's not sorted. So let me give another variable here called modified list. And here we perform all the actions. Then we can print modified list. If I want to sort this list alphabetically, I can just say sorted, and I pass in the items. When I run it, it will sort the list for me. So you see that it started alphabetically like this for me, and it sorted the list. I think this sorted can take one argument, which is called reverse. So now if I want to get it in the reverse alphabetical order, I can just say reverse is true. True. If I tell it that reverse is true, that means that I should still sort it, but sort it reverse alphabetical order. So that one should start from R and then end at B, the opposite of the one we just saw. So that is one of the methods we can perform on list. We saw the len, which gives us the length of the list. Let me bring it up again. If you just say len and run, it will give us the length of the list, which is 5. Because if you count, you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 inside there. Okay, let's look at some more list methods. Now we have this list. What if we want to add another item to the list in production or while we are running our code? So let me delete chocolate from here. And then if I want to now add chocolate programmatically, I will say items dot append. There are actually 2 ways to add. So the first one is append. And what the append will do is that it will take whatever you put in here and add it to the last part of this list. I don't even know why this thing is saying replace with literal. I don't even know what it's trying to say. Let me just see. Okay. Items dot append. And then if I put in, say, the chocolate here again, we can see from the top there that chocolate is not part of the item. What is this underline meaning? Multi-step initialization cannot be replaced with a list literal. Don't worry about this one. So now that I have appended this, it will take this, what is inside here, and then when it is running, it will add it to the end of this list, original list. So you see it when I run it in code. Oh, sorry, it's still taking the length. So I think I have to comment this line because now it's not a list method. We are not calling it inside. So I have to print items rather. There's the list items, original list items. We want to add chocolates to the end of the list. So when I run it now, you see that even though I did not have chocolates in the beginning, because I appended it, when I printed items, now I see chocolates to be part of it. That is what the append does. But you can see that it will always put it at the end. If I go items.append, and then I choose my, biscuits again. Did I get it right? Maybe. So if I choose to append this one also and run my code, is that it's always putting it at the end. It is always putting it at the end in the order which they occur in the code from top to bottom. But what if I want to put it at the first position or first index? In that case, this will not be append. I will now say items.insert. If I say items.insert, I have to provide two things to the function. The first is the index, and the second is the object I want to pass to that particular index. So now I want to insert biscuits at index 0. So when I print the list, the items list after this operation, I should see biscuits at 0. So if I put 0 here, and then I finally put my item that I want to give to it. Don't worry about this. You see here, the one you see as index, and I'm not the one who typed it. It's Python who is trying to let us know. It is fetching things from the documentation to just keep our code in check. Or like it makes us know what is it that we are doing here. In the case where we don't provide the parameters ourselves. So you shouldn't be worried about this thing. You can't even select it, like you see. If I select, it doesn't work. Now when I run, you see that biscuits, originally when I used the append, it was at the end. But now that I used insert and gave it an index of 0, it's inserted it before milk. So it pushed it back. If I put it at index 1, now it should come after milk, but before bread. You can see here that it is coming after milk, but it's before bread. So if you want to insert something at a particular index, then you use the insert and not the append. Okay, let's see if there's any more we have to talk about. Okay, now that we are inserting, I think we can remove and then close the chapter on lists. So if I want to also remove something from the list, I can just say items.remove. And then I have to pass in the particular value. So in this case, I have to know exactly the element I want to remove. And let's say I want to remove bread. So I have to type exactly bread. And then when I run it, see that now bread is not part of our list. Let's see what happens if I type in something that is not in the list. So water is not part. When I run it, I get an error, which is very descriptive in itself. It's a value error, like we can see, and that it says list.remove x, which is the operation we wanted to perform at the top here. Where is it? This operation, list.remove. So in this case, items, what we see as a list here is our items, and then the remove is the function, the method, or let me see, the we are calling on it now. And the x is the water we passed in. So he's saying that x that we passed in is not in the list. So we cannot remove something that is not in the list. So you have to take note of that. If you want to use remove, you have to know the exact name or the exact correct spelling of the element. The other way we can also remove, now let me change it to rice, which is in the list, is to use what we call the pop. So items.pop. This one doesn't take the item name, it takes the index. So we are inserting, okay, let me say I want to take out the element at index 0. I'll pass in 0 here to pop. And then when I run it, we are performing a lot of operations on our list and we expect all of them to be executed. The first is append chocolate, so chocolate should be at the end, which is true. And the second is to insert something at index 1, which should be true because as at the time that the code got to this line, milk was still part. It was still part of the list. But when it got here, it removed the rice. And milk and rice were all parts at this point here. But when it got here, it removed the rice. And then when it got to line 10, now we are telling it that I should pop the 0th element, so to speak. So now milk will be taken out at line 10. That is why we are left with biscuits, bread, eggs, and chocolate. Because the operations that we have declared here have modified our list and taken 2 items out. That is why our list is left with that. So if I now say that it should pop the last element, that should be chocolate. So I'm not really tried whether the -1 works here, but I think it should. Okay, so now it did pop the chocolate for us. Rice will not be the next because we are already removing it from this side. Other than that, the last item would have been rice. Okay, so there are lots of list elements that I will encourage you to search, and then as you practice, use them and see how they work with lists. I will also try and structure the assignments such that it will make you do the research actually. So now that we know we can store items in a list, let's look at the next data type the next array that is on our list. That is a tuple. So we call them Python tuple, which is very similar to a list. Now let me delete everything here. And then if you want to create a tuple, you can, instead of the square bracket, use round brackets. So if I replace the square bracket with a round bracket and I zoom in here on my items, when I put my cursor on it, PyCharm will tell me that items is of types tuple. It already knows that it has 4 elements. So at first it was a list. If I go back, you see, let me just undo it a couple of times. And then now when I zoom in on the square brackets, see that it tells me that it's a list. But when they are round brackets, then it becomes a tuple. So that's the difference between the two visually. And also in the methods that can be carried out on them, they vary. So we will explore those ones very soon. As how we assess individual elements or subsets of tuples, look, this is the same as the list also. So if I go to say modified items, and then I set that one equal to items, I can index into it. I will say maybe the 3rd item. When I print this one out, I'm expecting to see the 3rd one. Okay. The subsetting here didn't work. The subsetting didn't work. Oh, sorry, I forgot to change it. I was wondering why it didn't work. It should work. It should give us that single element. Yes. So Now it is working as we wanted it to. So the subsetting works just like that of list. So I can use two values here, maybe the first to the fourth, if that one actually even exists. It doesn't exist, so let me add it. Let me just add more so that we just be safe. And then biscuits. Okay. So when I run this one through, it should give me the subsets like the list did. There's nothing so special about that. And let us try the sorted also on this one. I can pass in items. And then let's run it and see. So you see that it's also tried to sort it out for me. But instead of a tuple, we are now seeing a list. So you can just take notice of that. If you are using a tuple, you call the sorted on it, it returns a list for you. I think if you look at the documentation for the sorted, where did this one pass? Okay. I told you the last time that forget the cryptic things you may see on the screen. You can read here in plain English that it says return a new list containing all items from the iterable. Now, when we say an iterable, it's just the things we are discussing today: the list, the tuples, and the set. Anything that's more than one element that we can iterate over, that means go over one by one and perform some operation on, that particular thing is called an iterable. And so it returns a new list containing all items from the iterable in ascending order. But for this one, we can pass a custom key function to customize the sort order, which we are not doing today. Usually we have to use lambda and stuff. And we are not doing that. But you can see our reverse that we used during the list is here. So it is set to false by default. So if you want to do the reverse alphabetical sorting, you can set it to true, and then it will sort it in reverse for you. And so it returns a new list. That is what I wanted to draw your attention to. So if you are ever working on any project and you sort a tuple, don't just think it will bring back tuple for you. If you want to get a tuple back after the sorting, you can also convert that particular list. So we now know that modified items will be a list. I can just say tuple modified items. And now when I print it, it is sorted, but it is now converted from the list that sorted gives us to the tuple that we have at the top there. So you have to keep that one in mind. Okay. But what is this particular, one of the big differences between tuples and lists is that, say, let me type this one. I think I should use the green, you know. For tuples, we can say they are immutable. That means we cannot change it when we create it. But lists are mutable. That means we can change them when we create them. And so let's look at what it means. You found out that for the list, I do append and insert and everything like that. So if I now say items dot, if this were to be a list, I would have seen all the append and stuff here. But now we only see count and index. Let me do that one on the modified items. You see what I'm talking about. We know that this one returns a list. So if I now say modified items dot, I will see all the operations I can perform on a list. I see the inserts here we used at first, the remove, append, and all of the rest that are here. But when I do same on the tuple, I only see two. So once we create the tuple, we cannot change the elements. We cannot also say that items, we cannot be smart also to say that items, maybe how many are here? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we cannot say item 6 equal to maybe water. We immediately have an error from Python telling us that. Let me zoom in so that you can read the error well. It says here that tuples don't support item assignments. Replace tuple with list. So once you create it, you cannot assign anything to it again. You should also note that one in mind. So I think that is the main difference between the two that I should point out. Other than that, they behave as in the data storage, you can store data with them, like mixed data types. This one can be 1, 2, 3. You can have a Boolean here, maybe false. And you can even have another maybe float here. It will not throw an error. Let me try the sorted on this mixed data type and see. And so there's an error here now. It is trying to use, you remember this operator from yesterday? It's trying to use this operator for the sorting, and it's getting confused when it gets to maybe milk and 1, 2, 3. Which one is, which one should come first and all that. So just take note of that also. So if it is all numbers, we can sort. If it is all text, we can sort. But once it's mixed data type like that, we may have to introduce some, like the function that's key thing. We have to write our custom sorting algorithm to do the sorting for us. Okay. And so that will be it for the tuple. Let me check the comments. Okay. And now the last item on the list is Python sets. So let me, okay, I can just maintain. Let me just go back to the one that is all text. Yes. And then get rid of this and then change this one to sets. A set also is also an ordered collection of items. They are all arrays. That means they can have more than one item like we are seeing. But for the sets, we use the curly brackets for a set. So once I've changed it like this, if I zoom in on it, it's that it tells me that the type is a set of all strings. So that is how we declare a set. Now, if you want to know all the methods or the functions, as I said, I'll be calling them on that particular iterable, in this case, the set, you can do items dot, and Python or any intelligence editor like VS Code also will give you all the operations or the functions you can call on sets. So you see that if we have two sets, we can create a union, we can find the intersection, we can find the difference, and whether they are disjoint sets, whether one is a subset of the other, we can find their symmetric differences and all that. So all the operations that you perform mathematically on sets, I think if not all of them, most of them can be found here. Maybe you try and explore some of them very soon. So you can just get that one also. But one of the very big advantages of sets is that it doesn't allow duplicate values. And what do I mean by duplicate values? If I change this biscuit to milk, now I see milk here, I see milk here. I may not really get an error in the code, but if I comment this one out and print items, you would expect to see two milks, but you saw that, why is it? Do you have other duplicates also? Because it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. It took one of the milks out. I'm sorry I had to do the counting. This place looks shorter. I think it's because of the name here. Took one of the milks out. So we cannot have duplicates. We cannot have duplicates. If I add one more milk, it will still bring one of them. It still brought one milk. So one of the greatest advantages of sets is that it doesn't allow duplicates. So if you are reading from any file, like a CSV, and you want to drop all duplicates in a particular column, you can easily pass that column to a set. So if this were, let me say, a list at the top there, so let me cut all of them and then create a variable called my list, and then paste these ones in. If I print my list, it will give me everything. So let us actually try. So print my list, it will give me everything. And let me run it. So you see that one gave me all the milk, all the instances of milk, all the 3 instances were given. Now let's cast this my list to a set and see. If we also cast it to a tuple, the tuple will also do the same thing. So if it's a tuple, and then of my list, that means convert this list here to a tuple. Let's see. You see that the elements are all the same, just that the type has changed from to a tuple. But sorry, I forgot to update the banner. Sorry about that. If I cast this one now to a set instead of a tuple, let's see what will happen. See that the set has deleted the 2 redundant occurrences of the milk element and has given us only the unique elements that are found in the list. So if you want to do any type of cleaning to drop duplicates, this is your go-to array type, to speak. So if I should come back to our original list, let me take this double milk out. And then let's just create another variable called subset. Or maybe sub, that would be too biased. So maybe var. I'm out of options here. So I can now say, let that one also be a list of, say, X. Let me pass in, no, X. And then let me pass in rice also. Now, if I now print here items dot, let's first try with the intersection. And then, so I want to see the intersection between rice, egg, and now I have to add something here that is not inside the first one so that you see it well. So that should be water. So water is not found here, but these 2 are found here. So let's see what will happen when we print the intersection between items and then var. What this line means is that give me the intersection between the 2 sets. So the first set and then the second set. Now let's print it out. So that is rice and eggs, like we expected it to be. So those are the 2 that are in there. So let's try other methods too and see. Dot difference, and let's see, because we know that there is a difference between the 2. And that one only subtracts them for us. So it looks at all the elements in there and then just does the subtraction. I'm surprised. Let me see how the difference works. Just return the difference of 2 or more sets as a new set. That means all the elements that are in this set, but not the others. Okay, so there's milk, there is bread, there is chocolate. Okay, so what it did was that it looked at these first items here. That is the first set. And then compare if there are any instances or members which are in here that are also in here. And then it will take those members out. So if we swap and put the var here rather, and then put items inside here, I should expect water only at the run console. Yes. So it will only return water because when it took this mother, should I say the mother set? Because what we bring here, we can look at it as the mother set or the first set, and then looks at it. So there's rice in the second set that we are comparing. Okay, let me try and bring all the two. Yes, there's rice also in the second set that we are comparing. It comes here, it finds out that there's egg also in the second set that we are comparing. So the only thing that is not found in each of them here is water. So as far as this first or this var set is the first set of reference in our code, it will use that one and find all the duplicates that are also found in the set that we want to find the difference on, and then give us what is not there. I don't know whether my statements are explaining things as they have to, but I believe you see the code, you see what's inside there, so you get what it's trying to, Python is trying to do for us in terms of the list. Another thing that we can do with list, set, the intersection, I think we tried it, is subsets. We can try that one too. So now we have to swap it because this one looks like a mother set to me. And then this one will be var. And then we see here that it's false. And that should be because of this water that is in here. Because the water is not also found there. Now let's run it and see. Now it's also saying false. It's subset X and then rice. I don't think this one should return false. Why is it returning false? Oh, yes. It is returning false because we are asking it, is items a subset of var? This is what our statement is saying. Is items a subset of var? But it looks more to me like it's var that is rather the subset of items. And now it turns out to be true. So pardon me for that. Pardon me for that. This is how it is read. Is var a subset of items? And so you can now see here that that is true. Yeah. So that is the bigger set. But in the case where we bring water to, I think it should also still return false because that will mean that, yes, there's one element which is a foreigner. Okay. So that is it about this list, sets, and tuples. And in fact, as I showed you, you can easily type the dots, and then any intelligent editor will give you all the things you can perform on it. So I will encourage you to try your hands on. I cannot go through everything, that will make the video very long. And for list alone, you cannot go through everything. So let me check if there are questions that I have to address. No. Yes, I kind of understand that these ones are getting a little deeper. But let me also promise you that these things, they might only look difficult and confusing on first sight. If you actually sit down and then work on examples, you will realize that it's not difficult at all. It is not difficult at all. Maybe you will need to rewatch this video when it is uploaded, or find some websites, anything that will make you remember and get used to these particular operations if you don't get it at first sight. So that should not be a problem. And so if there are no questions, I think, as I always do, I'll wait for like 2 minutes and then see if there are any questions I have to address. Other than that, that will end our live stream for today on arrays in Python. Okay, I think there are no questions. So that will be the end of today's session. Thank you once again for your time. And then I'll encourage you again to go and practice these ones because they can build upon what you have done before. So tomorrow's session will build upon the knowledge of eye trouble. So I encourage you to practice before you come. Other than that, you may start finding things a little bit difficult and challenging. So I'll see you tomorrow, same time for day 5. Bye for now.